There have been lots of off-meta builds people have played over the years. AP Master Yi, Triforce LeBlanc, Tank Echo, you name it. These builds have almost always been nerfed to stop people from playing these champions the wrong way, and some are reliant on items that have since been removed or reworked. Moonstone Mordekaiser is one of these lost off-meta builds, being more of a cheese pick than an actual viable strategy. When Moonstone Renewer was reworked to prevent non-supports from using it, the build died with it, but I don't believe it should have. There's still a viable build path for this strategy, even without the item it was named for, and while it might not be as good as it used to be, it's still very funny to play. Today, I'll be presenting to you the new and improved Dawncore Mordekaiser, and breaking down the maths behind this absurd build. I'll also be going over a few relevant game mechanics, including heal and shield power, multiplicative scaling, and also reminding you to never trust Riot to code their game sensibly. Mordekaiser is your typical juggernaut, tanky and slow, while still managing to dish out tons of damage. His passive, Darkness Rise, is an aura that deals max health damage over time. It activates after hitting champions or large monsters 3 times with abilities or auto attacks. His Q, Obliterate, is a line skill shot that deals magic damage, increased if hitting a single target. His W, Indestructible, stores damage dealt and received on his secondary resource bar. The first cast turns the stored damage into a shield, and the second cast consumes the remaining shield to heal for a percentage of its value. His E, Death's Grasp, passively gives % magic penetration, and when activated pulls in enemies in a line. His ult, Realm of Death, steals a portion of an enemy's stats and transports both him and his victim to the Death Realm, where Mordekaiser can fight them one-on-one. For this video, you only really have to know how W works. Passively, it stores 45% of the post-mitigation damage he deals, and 7.5% of the pre-mitigation damage he receives, reduced to 25% effectiveness for damage dealt to and taken from non-champions. When W is first activated, it consumes the white bar below his health to give an equivalent shield, which decays exponentially over 4 seconds. You can recast it after 0.5 seconds, healing for up to 45% of the remaining shield. This means that if the shield takes damage or decays before recasting, the amount of health you receive will be reduced. To get the full value of the heal, you need to recast it immediately. W can also be used to block damage, as the shield will protect you from more damage than you would heal from it. This is how Indestructible is intended to work, but thanks to the wonders of build diversity, we have another, sillier option available to us. Before I talk about the build, we first have to discuss another game mechanic. Heal and Shield Power, or HS Power, is a supportive stat that increases the potency of healing and shielding you calls. It increases the heal or shield by this multiplier, which is equal to 1 when you have no HS power. It's mostly built by support champions, specifically enchanters, to augment their supportive abilities. This is not to be confused with healing amplification, like the buff Aatrox gets during World Ender. It's a specific stat that every champion has. By default, this stat is 0, but it can be increased by buying items, taking the Revitalize rune, killing the Chemtech Drake, or being a certain tumor of a champion. To reach the absolute highest heal and shield power currently attainable, we must unfortunately play Yuumi, and buy the following items: Dawncore, Mikael's Blessing, Redemption, Ardent Censer, Staff of Flowing Water, and a Forbidden Idol. This gives us a total of 66% HS power. Dawncore's first light passive converts bonus % mana regen into HS power, giving us an extra 11%, and Yuumi's W, You and Me, passively gives her up to 15% HS power. If our team kills 4 Chemtech Drakes, that nets us an extra 24%, and taking Revitalize gives us 5% more, for a total of 121% heal and shield power. This more than doubles any healing or shielding she gives, and considering the meta Yuumi build has most of these items, she clearly wasn't nerfed hard enough. Now for the reason you all clicked on this video. How does the build work? The reason the strategy is even viable is all to do with Mordekaiser's W, but before we get into the mechanics of it, I want to explain the notation I'll be using. Whenever I show a formula on screen, X is the value shown on his second bar, or his potential shield. Most of the time, X can be assumed to be 30% of Mordekaiser's maximum health, since we want to be casting W when the bar is full, but keeping it this way makes the formula more general. The variable P is his heal and shield power, as a decimal, and not a percentage. For example, a HS power of 15 will be entered as 0.15. This is to reduce the complexity of the formula, by getting rid of all the percentages and expressing them as multipliers instead. The first cast shields Mordekaiser based on stored damage, and the second cast turns 45% of that shield into a heal. Since HS power will be applied as a multiplier to both the shield and the heal, it makes the final heal scale quadratically with HS power. What this means is the higher Mordekaiser's heal and shield power, the more effective each point is. For example, compare the effect of increasing HS power from 10 to 20% to the effect of going from 50 to 60%. With high enough numbers, this can heal him for even more than the shield's value. The basic formula for the shield and the heal looks something like this, with the heal surpassing the shield at around 122% HS power. If you include the 10% bonus healing and shielding from Revitalize, which you get when below 40% of your maximum health, and the 25% amplification from Spirit Visage, the threshold for stronger healing drops to 62% heal and shield power. The bonuses from Revitalize and Spirit are separate from HS power and from each other, meaning they stack multiplicatively. Our build will be Dawncore, Spirit Visage, Mikael's Blessing, Redemption, Ardent Censer, and Staff of Flowing Water. This gives us 58% heal and shield power, since Dawncore's passive doesn't work on Mordekaiser as he has no mana. To further increase our HS power, we take Revitalize, and if possible kill 4 Chemtech Drakes, netting us a grand total of 87% HS power. This build also gets us about 55 ability haste and 3,443 health at level 18, meaning if you use W off cooldown and your shield bar is full when you do, you can heal up to 3,073 health every 5 seconds. As you can probably imagine, this is very frustrating to fight against. It's very hard to burst Mordekaiser in the time between W casts, made harder by his Mikael's cleansing CC and healing him, as well as the massive AoE heal from Redemption. There are a few runes that are essential for this build to function. Revitalize, of course, is core to the strategy, meaning we have to take the resolve tree somewhere. Other good runes in this tree are Shield Bash, which scales wonderfully with your W, and Conditioning, which increases your durability later on. I recommend Shield Bash because it's funny, and the empowered attack persists even if you consume the shield immediately, so it's just free damage every 5 seconds. For keystones, we can go Conqueror or Grasp of the Undying. Conqueror is by far my preferred option, giving stacking, adaptive force, and omnivamp against champions. This will keep you in the fight and increase your healing even more. Grasp is less useful in fights, but more useful during laning phase. The extra damage can help you get an edge on your opponent, and the bonus health you gain increases your maximum shield. If we take Conqueror, we can also go Last Stand, giving us more damage when close to death so we can build up our shield faster. Since the runes aren't as important here, I suggest you have fun with it and experiment. I personally go Conqueror, Triumph, Legend Haste, Last Stand, Shield Bash, and Revitalize, taking the shards for attack speed, adaptive force, and scaling health. While I was working on this video, I found out something very interesting. I was testing how much healing the build gave, when I discovered that, according to my calculations, I was healing too much. This formula gives the total healing after activating W twice, converting the maximum shield into a heal. In this test, I have 3,443 health and 87% HS power, which, according to the formula, should heal me for 3,073 health. Unfortunately for me, this formula doesn't match up with reality. I talked to a few people on the wiki Discord, and it turns out that while my maths is solid, this game's code is an illogical mess. The way this equation is laid out, the heal and shield, Revitalize, and Spirit Visage modifiers are applied twice, once during the shielding and once during the healing. The coefficient of X is the fraction of the shield being converted into a heal, before applying the other modifiers. Trying to adjust the formula to correct an error in our reasoning, for example, by adding the modifiers for Spirit Visage and Revitalize together, always gives us less healing. Thanks to the people on the Discord, I now know why it does this. Revitalize acts differently than expected when applying to shields instead of heals. The bonus shielding Revitalize gives is counted as a separate instance of shielding, meaning it gets a second application of heal and shield power, even though it was already affected by it before. This gives the fucked up formula gracing your screen right now, which increases the resulting healing ever so slightly compared to the sensible formula. Healing affected by Revitalize doesn't have this bug, so the conversion from shield to heal isn't changed, but it's still dependent on the shield value, so it's still slightly higher than before. This equation matches up exactly with what we get from testing, which is quite the relief, but it does mean I was lying to you before when I told you how much this build heals for. Dawncore Mordekaiser can actually heal for 3,316 health every 5 seconds, depending on whether you have extra health from things like Grasp of the Undying. I'm still mad that it doesn't work in a logical way, but at least I know exactly what's happening in the black box that is the Riot servers. There is a catch, however. Grievous Wounds and Shield Reaver will almost completely destroy this build, dropping our maximum healing from over 3,000 to about 1,000 if we're affected by both. Grievous items and Serpent's Fang are hard counters to this build, making it very bad for ranked play since they're so cheap. The initial shield is decreased by either 35% or 50%, depending on whether the applicator is ranged or melee. This carries over to the heal, which is decreased by 40% thanks to Grievous Wounds. The nerfed heal is either 39% or 30% of the full strength heal, depending on the owner of the Serpent's Fang. Dawncore Mordekaiser is a fun build, and the way I've presented it to you may make it look strong, but keep in mind how it will work in game. People will buy Grievous Wounds and Shield Reaver, and your healing will massively drop as a result. I do not recommend this build for ranked. Aside from dealing no damage because of all the support items, it's also awful in team fights, where the entire enemy team can focus you and kill you before you can heal. To sweeten the deal, you also can't split push or farm waves. In fact, it's bad at everything except for skirmishing against 1 or 2 enemies. Playing this will upset your teammates, so try it out at your own risk, or queue up in a 5-stack and go ham with it. Feel free to leave a comment below about how bad this build is though. It's just free engagement for me. Thanks for making it to the end. I had a bit of a phase when this build was originally made, after I watched the Ross Boomsocks video about it. Link to that is in the description. I'm also glad for the help of the League Wiki Discord. Without them, I would never have known about the shielding bug. Also, we now have an official League of Legends wiki. We've replaced the old Fandom hosted wiki and transferred everything over. Now you can find out whatever you want about the game without intrusive ads and long loading times. It also works on mobile devices. Anyway, if you liked the video, give it a like, and subscribe to see more from me. Thanks again for watching.